I swear to you, if I could go back in time, I'd burn that television before ever turning it on. It happened last night, in my grandmother's house. She's been gone for years, but the place hasn't changed. Same faded wallpaper, same sagging armchair, same smell of old wood and mothballs. I went there to check on the property, make sure everything was still locked up. The living room was dark, except for the dull glow of the streetlight bleeding through the curtains. I was halfway to the kitchen when I noticed it. The old TV, that heavy, box-shaped relic that hasn't worked since the 90s. No cable, no antenna, no power cord. It was just there, sitting exactly where it always sat. As I passed it, something flickered on the glass. It was so quick I almost dismissed it, just a split second of static, like the after-image of lightning. I stopped, stared at it, nothing, just the dark reflection of my own face. I shook my head and kept walking. Then I heard it, a faint hiss. Not loud, but sharp enough to freeze me mid-step. I turned back, and the TV was glowing faintly, the screen filled with a trembling sea of white snow. The sound wasn't quite right. It wasn't the dry crackle of old static. It was wet, a muffled, bubbling noise, like whispers gurgling through water. I stepped closer. The air around the set felt colder, heavier. The static shifted, and in the middle of it, something darker began to form. At first, it looked like a shadow. Then it stretched downward in thin, uneven strands. My mind tried to make sense of it, until I realized they weren't shadows at all. They were strands of hair. The hair moved. It slid across the glass, twisting and curling as if it were alive. My mouth went dry. Then, without warning, a pale hand pressed against the inside of the screen. Long, skeletal fingers spread wide, their nails dark and cracked. The glass bulged outward under the pressure, like it wasn't solid anymore. I stumbled back, but the thing kept pushing. Cold air spilled into the room, bringing with it a stench of rotting soil and damp wood. My eyes locked on the screen as the rest of it emerged, stringy hair hanging over a face that was wrong in every way. Skin the color of ashes. Eyes so black they looked like holes burned into reality. The mouth opened, far too wide, and a sound poured out. A sound that made my stomach twist, a rasping whisper layered with something low and rumbling underneath. It crawled halfway out of the television, its head tilting unnaturally as it looked right at me. And then, it spoke my name. When it said my name, it didn't sound like a question. It sounded like a statement, like it already knew me, like it had been waiting. The voice was wrong. It echoed inside my head, not in the room, vibrating in my bones instead of in my ears. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. It began to crawl forward, the rest of its body sliding through the screen as if the glass were liquid. Its arms bent in unnatural ways, joints cracking softly with each movement. The hair stuck to its skin, wet and matted, leaving dark streaks on the carpet where it touched. The static behind it grew louder, faster, like a heartbeat speeding toward panic. I could feel it in the floorboards, rattling the coffee table, making the picture frames on the wall tremble. Every step it took was slow, deliberate, like it was savoring the moment. Its head tilted again, almost touching its shoulder, and it whispered my name once more, dragging the syllables out until they became something else entirely, something inhuman. My throat burned with the urge to scream, but the sound wouldn't come out. Then, the lights in the house flickered. Once, twice, and with the third flicker, everything went black. The hiss of the static didn't stop, though. I could still hear it, even without the screen's glow. My eyes tried to adjust, but in the darkness, the outline of its body was somehow darker still, an absence of light, like it swallowed everything around it. When the lights came back on, it was inches from my face. I saw its mouth moving, but no sound came out now. Instead, I felt breath, cold and damp, on my skin. And then I realized the sound of static was gone. The television was silent, because it wasn't coming from the TV anymore. It was coming from inside my head. I stumbled back, finally breaking free from whatever held me still, and ran toward the door. My hand fumbled for the knob, twisting, pulling, but it didn't open. Behind me, the thing didn't rush. It didn't need to. Every step it took seemed to stretch the room, making the door feel farther away. The last thing I remember before everything went black was its face inches from mine, its lips curling into something like a smile. Then it whispered, not my name this time, but something else. Now you'll watch. When I woke up, the television was off. The living room was silent. but in the reflection of the dark screen, I saw myself sitting in the armchair, eyes black, mouth moving, and I realized I wasn't looking at the living room anymore. I was looking at the other side.
Subscribe to Horror Stories.